Thanks, Brad. Thanks. Alright. Okay, so, breaking news. Yesterday, they revealed information that we would actually be getting buffs and possibly debuffs in the future for certain moves. This actually brings up quite an interesting topic here. Let's actually read the tweet that was sent. So it says, "Attention trainers, a major update is coming soon to Pokemon Go. Stat boosts. Starting this Saturday, certain charge attacks will have a chance to trigger stat boosts in trainer battles for the first time." So looking over at the PokemonLive.com, it does talk about Ancient Power, Ominous Wind, and Silver Wind. All three of those have a chance to raise the user's attack and defense. Okay, so let's actually talk about what that means. So we actually have several Pokemon that have the ability to now buff their attack and defense. I'll throw up a little graphic here. All of the Pokemon with Ancient Power are going to be Golem had it if you have a Legacy Golem, Execute, Ammonite and Amistar, Kabuto and Kabutops, Aerodactyl, Mew, Bayleaf, the Togepi line, the Yanma line, Larvitar and Pupitar but not Tyranitar, Lily but not Credilli, Anorith but not Armaldo, Relicanth, Rayquaza, Cranidos but not the other one, Shieldon but not Bastiodon, Tangrowth, Mamoswine but nobody else, which will be Legacy after Saturday, and then Giratina. Ominous Wind is going to be Golbat if you have a Legacy Golbat. Same goes for Ghastly if you have a Legacy Ghastly. It doesn't look like Haunter or Gengar will have it. Xatu, Mischievous, Masquerain, Shuppet, Duskull and Dusknoir, Drifloon and Drifblim, Spiritomb also will have Ominous Wind. In terms of Silver Wind, we have Venomoth, Ladybug and Ladian, Yanma, Beautyfly and Dustox, Masquerain, Illumise, and then the Finneon and Lumineon are both able to have Silver Wind as well. There's quite a bit of Pokemon in there, and if we're thinking about the Twilight Cup this month, the Togepi line can be in Golbat, Ghastly, Mischievous, Shuppet, Duskull and Dusknoir, Drifloon and Drifblim. Venomoth is the big one, in my opinion. Dustox is a good one, and I'm probably missing a few in the graphic, but all those Pokemon have a chance as of Saturday to have a stat boosting move. How do you guys think this is going to work? First thing that I did is I went straight to the Game Master. If you guys don't know what the Game Master is, it is literally a long list of code that basically states all of the different stats and all of the hard-coded numerical stuff for everything in Pokemon Go. When it comes to gender percentages, when it comes to attack power, energy gain, energy change, anything like that, it's in the Game Master, okay? So the first thing that I did is went and checked the Game Master. So I'm going to write on the board really fast everything that I found, which is not a lot. That light really gets right into my board, doesn't it? There are two main variables, I would say, that show up for me. It's minimum stage and maximum stage. Those both are set respectively to -4 and +4. Now, there's also a set of values that happen after it states these stages. These are what I would presume are the stages that we're talking about. 1.0 is where I assume we start. You know, all your stats are going to do exactly what they're coded to do. And then we have these debuffs, which have 1, 2, 3, 4 levels. So minimum stage is -4. This is as far down as you can be debuffed. And then it goes up from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, to a maximum stage where, you know, that's the maximum that you could be buffed. So, Here's how I think that things are going to work. I think that there's going to be an RNG factor. And I think that randomly your charge move will have the option to either buff you or debuff your opponent. Now, of course, we don't have debuffs at the moment, but just hear me out. So, let's say that tomorrow, which I will try my hardest to find somebody that will freaking PvP with me. Tomorrow, let's say you go out and you're using Venomoth and you use Silverwind. I think there's going to be a chance that your Silverwind is then going to in turn buff you. So it may be a 33% chance, it may be a 50% chance, it may be specific to the move, which I think that's a very interesting move, and I hope that's actually the way it goes. I think that it will move you one stage each time that you get this bonus, or this buff, you know. What does that mean? I think that the way that it makes sense to work would be that it buffs all of your attacks. Because, I mean, if you look at the stages, let's say that we go to 1.5 damage for everything. All of our attacks are increased by 1.5. So if we have Confusion, we're going to be doing 3 energy per turn at 4 damage per turn before the buff. So we are at 1.0. We're right here, okay? After a buff, we're still going to be only doing 3 energy per turn because this has no effect on energy, which I also think would be an amazing stat change if Niantic ever decides to implement that. Changing the amount of energy that I or my opponent can gain. Oh my gosh, can you guys imagine? So if we go to 1.5, 4 times 1.5 is 6. So then we go to 6 damage per turn. That would be the 1.5. Then let's say we have a 2.0. We're still only going to be doing 3 energy per turn, but we're now going to be doing 8 damage per turn. And then if we go to 2.5, we still stick to our 3 energy. Now we're doing 10 damage per turn. I'm going to check my math to make sure I'm not an idiot. I'm an idiot, but I didn't get it wrong. So then let's say our last stage is 3.0. 3 energy per turn, of course. And then we're still going to be doing 12 damage per turn, and you can see that it scales. Let's say that you have a chance to get this buff every time that you use Silverwind. What I foresee happening is that there are a maximum of 4 stages that you can get boosted. So let's really think about this in terms of like Silverwind and Venomoth doing damage. They did state that if you change out your Pokemon or the Pokemon faints, it will lose its buff. So let's do a little bit more math. Confusion gives us 3 energy per turn. Silverwind takes 45 energy to fire, okay? So how many turns is it going to take to get to 45? 15 turns, right? Or 15 divided by 2 is 7.5 seconds. So if we're going to get all 4 of these buff stages, that means we're going to have 30 seconds worth of time before Venomoth dies. Unless you're going up against something that just completely just does... If Venomoth quad resists something... Possibly. And I mean, and even then, if you're, shielding yourself, like in certain scenarios, I can see this happening. I can see you being alive for a full 30 seconds to get all 4 buffs. Do you really think that Niantic would give it a guarantee every time I use Silverwind that I get the buff? Ooh, that's another interesting concept. I wonder if we can get 0 damage charge moves, but they are a complete buff or debuff. Ooh, that would be very, very interesting. I think this is how basically the concept is going to work. I think this is going to be huge for PvP. I mean, Pokemon Go has needed a little bit more depth for a while, and I think this is going to be the much needed depth to get people out into this realm, because this feels a lot more like regular Pokemon than Pokemon Go has in quite a while. That's my personal thoughts. That's how I think that things are going to play out as far as how the mechanics of this mechanic work. In terms of the meta, so if you have a Legacy Golbat, it may be worth keeping Ominous Wind on it. Shadow Ball, I think for the foreseeable future, will definitely be the more damaging move until we know exactly how it works after tomorrow. For instance, these damages, they may also very well buff Silverwind. So Silverwind does 70 damage per turn, or does 70 damage every time you use it. So if it also buffs this, then that becomes a lot more interesting. That gives you a lot more power, and it gives you a lot more damage per energy as well. So, because that would make, this first stage alone would make Silverwind do 105 damage if my math is right. And then it goes to 140 damage. Oh man, that gets pretty crazy. I think until we know a little bit more about it, I don't know how the meta is going to shift. I think that if you already have a Pokemon with these moves on it, hold on to it. Let's see how it unfolds. As far as the very near future, if you're coming up on a Twilight Cup like tomorrow, I wouldn't go dump a ton of resources into it. If you have it, I consider you lucky, and I would consider using it once you know how it works. Like maybe test it out on the trainers beforehand, see how that works, maybe get together with a buddy. But until we really know, because for all we know, tomorrow they could update the Game Master and it not even be these numbers. These are the hard-coded numbers as of right now. I don't think that the meta is going to shift drastically because how late in the month this actually happened. But by the end of the month, I think we'll definitely have a good idea about next month's meta and how much these type of moves will affect us. That's just my opinion, guys. I'd love to know yours. If you like to like videos, make sure you do that. If you don't, you can be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below. And until today is Friday, so until Monday, I'll toss it back to you, Karen. Thanks. Karen's our weather woman. She's a